The 57th floor of Lancaster Enterprises gleamed like a crystal palace in the morning sun. Ethan Lancaster stood at his floor-to-ceiling window, his reflection superimposed over Manhattan's skyline. At 42, he'd mastered the art of control. Every aspect of his life ran with the precision of the Swiss watch on his wrist, from the perfectly pressed collar of his tailored suit to the methodically scheduled minutes of his day. "Your 9 a.m. is ready, Mr. Lancaster," his assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Ethan straightened his Italian silk tie. "Send them in, Regina." The glass doors whispered open, admitting 3 executives from a potential acquisition target. Ethan didn't move from his position at the window, letting them marinate in the calculated silence. It was a power play he'd perfected over years of negotiations. "Gentlemen," he finally turned, offering a smile that never quite reached his steel-gray eyes. "I trust the view impressed you as much as our initial offer." 2 hours later, Ethan sat alone in his office, reviewing the signed preliminary agreement. Another victory. Another step toward expanding his empire. His phone buzzed. A text from his housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, regarding his son's schedule. "Max's science project is due tomorrow. He's been working on it all afternoon." A familiar twinge of guilt pricked at his conscience. He'd promised to help Max with the project, but the merger negotiations had taken priority. He typed back, "Tell him I'll review it when I get home." At 13, Max was already showing signs of following in his father's footsteps. Driven, intelligent, and perhaps a bit too serious for his age. Ethan saw himself in his son's meticulous nature, in the way he planned everything to the smallest detail. Some nights, when the silence in his penthouse grew too loud, Ethan wondered if that was something to be proud of or worried about. The intercom buzzed again. "Mr. Lancaster, there's a call from St. Michael's Children's Home. They say it's urgent." Ethan frowned. St. Michael's wasn't one of the charities on his carefully curated list of beneficiaries. "Take a message." "Sir, they're quite insistent. They say it's about your son." "Max?" Alarm shot through him. "Put them through." A woman's voice filled the line, warm but professional. "Mr. Lancaster? This is Patricia Martinez from St. Michael's. I'm calling about Liam. There must be some mistake. My son's name is Max." "Yes, Mr. Lancaster, we're aware of Maxwell. I'm calling about Liam Bennett. He was brought to us last week after his mother's passing." "Anna Bennett?" The name hit him like a physical blow. Anna. He hadn't heard that name in years, had forced himself not to think about her since the custody battle that had left them both scarred and bitter. "Anna's dead?" "Yes, sir, cancer. She passed 7 months ago." Ethan gripped the edge of his desk, his perfectly ordered world tilting on its axis. "I don't understand. What does this have to do with me?" "Mr. Lancaster, Liam is 8 years old. He's your son and—" Patricia paused, her next words shattering the last remnants of Ethan's control. "He's Maxwell's twin brother." The phone slipped from his nerveless fingers. Twin brother? Impossible, he would have known. The custody arrangements, the medical records, everything had only ever mentioned one child. Max, his son, his only son. But even as his mind rejected the possibility, a memory surfaced. Anna, 7 months pregnant, refusing to let him accompany her to doctor's appointments. Anna, growing distant and protective, her hands constantly cradling her belly as if guarding a secret. "Mr. Lancaster?" Patricia's voice came faintly from the fallen receiver. "There's more." Anna left letters. "For you, for Maxwell, and for Liam. She explained everything." Ethan's legs gave out, and he sank into his chair. The Manhattan skyline blurred before his eyes, the carefully constructed glass walls of his world beginning to crack. All these years he'd thought he held all the pieces. He'd raised Max alone, built an empire, crafted a life of perfect order and control. But now, in a single phone call, the truth emerged. He'd been living with only half the story, half the family, half the responsibility. His intercom buzzed one final time. "Sir, your 11 a.m. is waiting. Cancel everything. he heard himself say, his voice strange and distant. Cancel everything for the next week. For the first time in his meticulously planned life, Ethan Lancaster had no idea what would happen next. In a children's home across the city, a boy who shared his blood, and apparently his face, was waiting. A boy who carried Anna's last name and, undoubtedly, pieces of her heart. The sun continued to stream through his office windows, catching on the crystal, awards lining his shelves. Each one represented a victory, a moment of triumph in his relentless pursuit of success. But as Ethan stared at them now, they seemed to mock him with their cold, hard perfection. In the reflection of his window, Ethan saw what he'd become, a man who had everything under control, except the things that mattered most. And now, the carefully constructed walls of his life were about to come crashing down around him. His phone buzzed again, a text from Mrs. Chen. Max is asking about dinner. Will you be home early as promised? Ethan stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the screen. How could he face his son knowing what he knew now? How could he look into Max's eyes and see only half of a truth he should have known years ago? The letters. Anna had left letters. Even in death, she was about to change his life again. Just as she had 13 years ago when she'd walked away, taking with her secrets that were only now coming to light. Ethan finally typed his response. Tell Max I'm coming home now. There's something we need to talk about. It was time to face a truth he never knew existed, and somehow find a way to help his son, both his sons, understand a past that was about to reshape their future. St. Michael's Children's Home stood in stark contrast to the glass and steel towers Ethan Lancaster typically occupied. The red brick Victorian mansion, with its weathered wooden trim and well-tended garden, seemed to exist in a different universe from his chrome and marble penthouse. Ethan's hands trembled as he pulled Anna's first letter from his briefcase. He'd read it 5 times since Patricia had delivered it to his office yesterday, but the words still didn't seem real. My dearest, Ethan, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and you've finally met our other son. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But before you judge me too harshly, please try to understand. That night, when you told me your plans for our child's future, the boarding schools, the business training, the carefully plotted path to success, I saw something in your eyes that terrified me. The same ruthless determination that made you so successful in business had turned toward our unborn child. So when the doctor told me we were having twins, I made a choice. A terrible, selfish, loving choice. I kept Liam with me, to raise him away from the pressure and expectations that I knew would shape his brother's life. I wanted at least one of our sons to have the chance to find his own path. I know now that I was wrong to deny you both your sons, and to deny them each other, but I can't change the past. I can only hope that you've grown, as I have, to understand that love isn't about control or perfection. It's about acceptance, forgiveness, and the courage to let our children become who they're meant to be. Mr. Lancaster? Patricia Martinez's voice pulled him from the letter. Liam's ready to meet you. Ethan folded the letter with shaking hands. How much does he know? He knows you're his father, and about Maxwell. He's been following your career. For years, actually. Anna never hid your identity from him. The revelation stung. While he'd been building his empire, his unknown son had been watching from afar, collecting newspaper clippings and magazine articles about the father he'd never met. Patricia led him to a cheerfully painted room filled with books and toys. And there, standing by the window, was a boy who made Ethan's heart stop. It was like looking at a photograph of Max at 8 years old. The same steel gray eyes, the same nose, the same slight curl at the corners of his mouth. But where Max carried himself with practiced poise, Liam vibrated with barely contained energy. Hi, Liam said, his voice small but steady. I'm Liam. Ethan took an unsteady step forward. Hello, Liam. I'm your father. The boy nodded, studying him with an intensity that was painfully familiar. Mom kept all your pictures. She Said I got my thinking face from you. A laugh that was almost a sob escaped Ethan's throat. Did she? What else did she tell you about me? That you're really smart and work really hard? And that you love Max a lot? Liam paused, uncertainty flickering across his face. Do you think you could love me too? The simple question shattered what remained of Ethan's composure. In 3 quick strides, he crossed the room and knelt before his son. Liam, I already do. I'm so sorry I didn't know about you sooner. So sorry I wasn't there. Liam's lower lip trembled. Mom said you would have been, if you'd known. She left me letters to give you. He turned to a backpack in the corner and pulled out a bundle tied with faded blue ribbon. She wrote them every year on my birthday. She said they'd help you understand. Ethan accepted the bundle, his fingers tracing the dates written in Anna's familiar handwriting. 8 years of letters. 8 years of moments he'd missed. Did she? Ethan's voice cracked. Did she suffer? At the end? Liam's face clouded. Sometimes. But she was brave. She made me promise to be brave too when it was time to find you. He squared his small shoulders. I kept my promise. Yes, Ethan whispered. You certainly did. A knock at the door announced Patricia's return. Liam, why don't you show your father what you've been working on? The boy's face lit up. He rushed to a shelf and returned with a detailed model of a solar system, each planet hand-painted and suspended on carefully balanced wires. I made it myself, he said proudly. Mom helped with the research. Did you know that Venus spins backwards compared to most other planets? Ethan examined the model, noting the careful attention to detail, the creative use of materials. It reminded him of the science project waiting at home, the one he'd been too busy to help Max with. This is extraordinary, Liam. You must have worked very hard on it. Mom said that when you work on something you love, it doesn't feel like work at all. Liam's fingers traced the rings of Saturn. Did you help Max make things like this? The question hit Ethan like a physical blow. How many opportunities had he missed with Max, buried in work and meetings? And how many had he already missed with Liam? I haven't been as present as I should have been, he admitted. But that's going to change. Patricia cleared her throat softly. Mr. Lancaster, we should discuss the next steps. The paperwork, the transition plan. No. Ethan stood, decision crystallizing. No more waiting. No more transitions. I'm taking my son home today. Sir, there are procedures. I'll have my lawyers handle everything. He turned to Liam. That is, if you want to come home with me, to meet your brother. Liam's eyes widened. Today? Really? Then uncertainty crept in. But what if Max doesn't like me? Ethan felt the weight of Anna's letters in his briefcase, knowing there were more revelations, more challenges ahead. But looking at Liam, this miracle he'd never known he had, he finally understood what Anna had tried to tell him about love and control. Max might need time to adjust, he said honestly. We all will. But we're family, Liam. And from now on, we'll figure things out together. As they packed Liam's belongings, Ethan's phone buzzed. Mrs. Chen. Max is asking questions about the canceled meetings. He knows something's wrong. Ethan looked at Liam, carefully wrapping his solar system model in newspaper. Soon he would have to face Max, would have to explain how their perfectly ordered world had suddenly expanded, would have to admit that the control he'd prized for so long had been an illusion. But watching his newly discovered son, seeing Anna's gentleness in his movements, her curiosity in his questions, Ethan realized that sometimes the most precious things in life were the ones you couldn't plan for. Ready? He asked softly. Liam nodded, clutching his backpack of letters. Mom said you live in a building that touches the clouds. Is that true? Yes, Ethan smiled, taking his son's hand. But I'm starting to think there are more important things than being on top of the world. Together they stepped out of St. Michael's and into the sunlight, toward a future neither of them could predict. Behind them, the weight of 8 years of secrets and separation began to lift, carried away by the promise of new beginnings and the healing power of truth finally spoken. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt longer than usual. Ethan watched Liam's reflection in the polished doors, noting how his son's eyes widened at each ascending number. Beside them, Liam's solar system model sat carefully wrapped in its protective cocoon of newspaper. 92 floors, Liam whispered, pressing his palm against the elevator's glass wall. Mom would have loved this view. The casual mention of Anna sent a fresh wave of guilt through Ethan's chest. He'd spent years trying to forget her, and now her absence felt more present than ever. Mr. Lancaster. Mrs. Chen's voice crackled through the elevator's intercom. Maxwell is quite agitated. He's demanding to know what's happening. Ethan squeezed Liam's shoulder gently. Are you ready? Liam nodded, but his hand tightened around the straps of his backpack. Did you tell him about me yet? Not yet. I wanted... Ethan paused, realizing how unprepared he was for this moment. I thought it would be better in person. The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse's marble foyer. Max stood, waiting, his 13-year-old frame rigid with tension. He wore the same expression Ethan had seen in boardroom mirrors, controlled, calculating, masking vulnerability with practiced indifference. Then Max saw Liam. The color drained from his face. His carefully constructed mask cracked, revealing raw shock underneath. Dad? His voice cracked. What's going on? Liam took a half-step forward, then stopped, uncertain. The brothers stared at each other, mirror images separated by 5 years and a lifetime of secrets. Max, Ethan began, his rehearsed speech evaporating. This is Liam. He's your brother, your twin brother. No. Max backed away, shaking his head. That's impossible. You're lying. It's true, Maxwell. Ethan moved toward his older son, but Max jerked away from his touch. Don't call me that. Max's voice rose sharply. If this is true, if he's really my brother, then you've been lying to me my whole life. I didn't know, Ethan said softly. Your mother, Anna. She never told me about Liam. Mom? The word seemed to physically hurt Max. He'd never called anyone that, had never had anyone to call that. His eyes locked onto Liam again. You knew her? Liam nodded, his voice small but clear. She talked about you all the time. She kept pictures. Max's breathing quickened. Pictures? While I was here wondering why she abandoned me, she was keeping pictures? He turned on Ethan. Did you know? Did you know she was out there somewhere, building a life with him? Max, please. Ethan stepped between his sons. This isn't Liam's fault. None of this is his fault. Then whose fault is it? Max's voice cracked again. Because someone decided I didn't deserve to know my own brother. Someone decided to split us up and lie about it for 8 years. Mrs. Chen appeared silently at the edge of the room, her usually stoic face creased with concern. Ethan caught her eye and nodded slightly. She withdrew, but he knew she'd stay close, ready to help if needed. I have letters, Liam offered suddenly, reaching into his backpack. From Mom. She explained everything. There's one for you too, Max. Max stared at the envelope Liam held out, Anna's handwriting clearly visible on the front. His hands trembled as he snatched it away. Max, Ethan started, but his son was already running, disappearing down the hallway toward his room. The sound of a door slamming echoed through the penthouse. Liam's lower lip trembled. He hates me. No. Ethan knelt before him. He's hurt and confused. Give him time. Mrs. Chen reappeared, her quiet presence a balm in the charged atmosphere. Perhaps Liam would like to see his room? I've prepared the blue guest suite. Liam looked up at Ethan, seeking permission. After his nod, Mrs. Chen led the boy away, leaving Ethan alone in the foyer with the weight of unspoken words and unopened letters. He found himself walking to his study, where Anna's first letter lay open on his desk. New lines jumped out at him now. I know this will be hardest on Max. He'll feel betrayed, abandoned all over again. But Ethan, he needs to know that I never stopped loving him. That keeping Liam wasn't about choosing one son over the other. It was about trying to save them both from the weight of expectations that nearly crushed us. A soft knock interrupted his reading. Mrs. Chen stood in the doorway. Liam is settling in. He asked if he could set up his solar system model by the window. She paused. He has her smile, you know, and her kindness. Ethan nodded, unable to speak. Maxwell has barricaded himself in his room, she continued. But I heard movement. He's reading the letter. Thank you, Mrs. Chen, for everything. She bowed slightly. Children are more resilient than we think, Mr. Lancaster, but they need time and truth. After she left, Ethan sank into his chair, Anna's words swimming before his eyes. The sun was setting over Manhattan, painting his perfect world in shadows and light. Somewhere in this apartment, his sons were reading their mother's last words, trying to understand choices made before they were old enough to have choices of their own. His phone buzzed. Work. Always work. But for the first time in his career, Ethan Lancaster ignored it. Instead, he pulled out a fresh sheet of paper and began to write. Dear Anna, today I met our son, our other son, and I finally understood what you tried to tell me all those years ago. You were right to be afraid of what my ambition might do to our children. I see it now in Max's eyes, in the way he guards himself against feeling too much, wanting too much, being too much like me. But I promise you, I'm learning. Today, watching our boys see each other for the first time, I realized that success isn't measured in stock prices or merger deals. It's measured in moments like these. Painful, beautiful, real moments that no amount of planning can prepare you for. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to help our sons bridge the gap that circumstances and choices have created between them. But I know I have to try, not for my sake or even for yours, but for them. They deserve the chance to be brothers, to be family, to be whatever they choose to be. A sound from the hallway made him look up. Max stood in the doorway, Anna's letter clutched in his hand, tears streaming down his face. Dad? His voice was barely a whisper. Can we talk? Ethan stood opening his arms, and for the first time in years, his son didn't hesitate to fall into them. They stood like that for a long moment, the setting sun painting them in gold, while somewhere down the hall, a lonely little boy arranged planets in their orbits, waiting for his own place in this new universe to become clear. The morning sun cast long shadows across the penthouse kitchen as Ethan watched his sons eat breakfast on opposite ends of the granite island. 3 days had passed since Liam's arrival, and the distance between the twins remained both physical and emotional. Max mechanically spooned his organic granola, while Liam picked at his pancakes, stealing glances at his brother between bites. The board meeting starts in 30 minutes, Mr. Lancaster. Regina's voice came through his phone. They're expecting updates on the Morrison merger. Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose. Tell them I'll be joining virtually. Family situation. Max's spoon clattered against his bowl. In the past, nothing had ever stopped Ethan from attending board meetings in person. The sound drew Liam's attention, and for a brief moment the brothers' eyes met across the kitchen island. Your science project received an A+, Maxwell, Mrs. Chen announced, entering with a folder. The teacher was particularly impressed with the research on sustainable energy. Liam perked up. You did a project on sustainable energy? I love that stuff. Mom and I used to watch documentaries about solar power and wind farms. The mention of Anna made Max stiffen, but instead of leaving the room as he had the previous times, he hesitated. What kind of documentaries? All kinds. There was this really cool one about a town in Denmark that runs completely on wind power. Liam's words tumbled out eagerly. Did you know they generate so much extra electricity that they can share it with other communities? A ghost of interest flickered across Max's face. My project was about developing more efficient solar panels using new semiconductor materials. Like the quantum dot technology they're testing in California? Liam asked. Max's eyes widened slightly. You know about quantum dots? Mom was a science teacher before. Liam's voice trailed off, the enthusiasm dampening. She always said learning should be an adventure. The silence that followed felt different from the tense quiet of the past few days. Max stared at his granola, then pushed it aside. Do you want to see my project? It's in my room. Liam glanced at Ethan, who nodded encouragingly. I'd like that. As the boys left the kitchen, Mrs. Chen began clearing the dishes. Master Maxwell hasn't invited anyone to his room since his last birthday party. Ethan's phone buzzed again. Regina with more urgent messages about the board meeting. He silenced it, remembering another line from Anna's letters. Time is the one thing you can never earn back, Ethan. Spend it wisely. Hours later, after conducting the board meeting from his home office, Ethan went looking for his sons. He found them in Max's room, surrounded by books and printouts about renewable energy. Liam's solar system model had somehow migrated there, suspended next to Max's collection of scientific awards. And if you adjust the angle of the panels seasonally, Max was explaining, you can optimize energy collection by up to 30%. That's genius, Liam exclaimed. Could you add a motorized system to do it automatically? I considered that, but the power consumption of the motors might offset the gains. Max caught sight of Ethan in the doorway and fell silent, some of his walls sliding back into place. Don't let me interrupt, Ethan said quietly. I just wanted to check if you boys were hungry for lunch. Liam's stomach growled on cue, breaking the tension. Max's lips twitched in what might have been the beginning of a smile. Mrs. Chen mentioned making her special dumplings, Ethan offered. The ones with the secret recipe? Liam asked. You know about those? Max seemed surprised. No, but Mom always said the best recipes have secrets. Liam's voice grew softer. She had this amazing cookie recipe that she said she'd only share with me when I turned 18. Now, Max shifted uncomfortably, then said, Mrs. Chen might teach us her dumpling recipe, if we ask nicely. Together. The word together hung in the air like a fragile bubble. Ethan held his breath, watching Liam's face light up with hope. Really? You think she would? She taught me how to make spring rolls last year. But dumplings are harder. Might need 2 people. Ethan stepped back, letting their conversation fade as he walked away. In his office, another letter from Anna waited to be read. He'd been parceling them out slowly, each one revealing new layers of the past she'd tried to protect and the future she'd hoped to build. My darling boys, this one began. I dream of the day you'll find each other. Max, with your brilliant mind and careful plans. Liam, with your endless curiosity and open heart. You're 2 halves of the same whole, even if you don't know it yet. Learn from each other, grow together, and forgive. Forgive me, forgive yourselves, forgive the circumstances that kept you apart. The sound of laughter, tentative but real, drifted from the kitchen. Ethan found his sons with Mrs. Chen, flour dusting their clothes as they attempted to roll dumpling wrappers. Maxwell, yours are too thick, Mrs. Chen critiqued. Liam, too thin. Watch again. The boys huddled together, watching her demonstration with identical expressions of concentration. For a moment, their differences seemed to fade. The age gap, the years of separation, the weight of secrets revealed. They were just brothers, learning something new together. Ethan's phone buzzed yet again. The Morrison merger was at a critical stage. The board was getting anxious. His carefully built empire needed his attention. But as he watched Max show Liam how to crimp the dumpling edges, as he saw the careful way they were learning to occupy the same space, he knew his empire could wait. Some foundations were more important than others. That evening, after the boys had gone to bed, Ethan found a note slipped under his office door. The handwriting was Max's, but there was something softer about it, less rigid than his usual precise script. Dad. I read Mom's letter again. The part where she talks about why she kept Liam. I'm still angry, but today, when Liam got excited about quantum dots and sustainable energy, I understood something. He's different from me, but maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what she wanted. I'm not ready to call him my brother, not yet, but I think I'd like to try being his friend first. Max. P.S. Don't tell him I wrote this. Ethan folded the note carefully and placed it with Anna's letters. Outside his window, the city lights twinkled like distant stars, reminding him of Liam's solar system model now hanging in Max's room. Two separate worlds slowly learning to orbit in harmony. Progress, he realized, didn't always announce itself with fanfare. Sometimes it came in whispers and shared dumplings and small notes written late at night. Sometimes it came in the space between anger and acceptance, where hope took root and grew, one tiny moment at a time. The headline blazed across Ethan's tablet screen: Lancaster Enterprises CEO's secret son discovered. Below it, somehow, was a photo of Liam at St. Michael's, side by side with a recent school picture of Max. The timestamp showed 3 a.m. By breakfast, it would be everywhere. Ethan's phone erupted with notifications. The board members, shareholders, press, everyone wanted answers. But his eyes kept returning to the article's cruel speculation about Anna, about their past, about his children. Mr. Lancaster, Regina's voice trembled through the intercom. The Morrison family is threatening to pull out of the merger. They're citing concerns about leadership transparency. A second headline popped up: Morrison Global reconsiders historic merger amid Lancaster. Family drama. Ethan's carefully constructed world was unraveling. Again. But this time it wasn't just his empire at stake. It was his son's privacy, their chance to build a relationship away from public scrutiny. Dad? Max stood in the doorway of his AOE, home office, tablet in hand. His face was pale. It's everywhere. School forums, social media. Everyone's talking about us. Before Ethan could respond, Liam appeared behind his brother, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, this is all my fault. Someone at St. Michael's must have... Stop. Max's voice was sharp, but he moved to stand between Liam and their father's desk. It's not your fault, right, Dad? The protective gesture caught Ethan off guard. Just a week ago, Max could barely look at his brother. Now, watching his older son shield his younger one from perceived blame, Ethan saw Anna's strength shining through. Of course it's not your fault, Liam. Ethan stood, decision crystallizing. Neither of you did anything wrong. But I need you both to listen carefully. Things are going to get complicated for a while. The merger, Max said, understanding. Dawning. It's falling apart, isn't it? Liam looked between them, confused. What merger? It's a big business deal, Max explained, his voice gentler than Ethan had ever heard. Dad's company was going to join with another company. It would have been the biggest deal of the year. And now they don't want to because of me? Liam's lower lip trembled. Because they're cowards, Max said firmly. And idiots. Ethan's phone buzzed again, the board requesting an emergency meeting. But as he reached for it, he noticed something that stopped him cold. Max had placed a hand on Liam's shoulder, an unconscious gesture of comfort that mirrored Anna's way of offering silent support. The board wants me to issue a statement, Ethan said slowly, to distance the company from our personal situation. You mean pretend Liam doesn't exist? Max's hand tightened on his brother's shoulder. Like Mom did with me? The words hung in the air, sharp with lingering hurt but also understanding. Max had spent days reading and rereading Anna's letters, coming to terms with her choices, her fears, her love. No, Ethan said firmly. No more hiding, no more pretending. He pressed the intercom. Regina, set up a press conference. Here, at the penthouse. 2 hours. Here? Max's eyes widened. But you never bring press to our home. Things change. Ethan looked at his sons, really looked at them. Family comes first. Your mother tried to tell me that years ago, but I wasn't ready to hear it. What are you going to say? Liam asked quietly. The truth. That I just learned I have another amazing son. That your mother made choices out of love, flawed, human choices that we're all learning to understand. That this family might be complicated, but it's ours. The Morrison merger, Max started, can survive or fail on its own merits, Ethan finished. I'm done letting fear of losing control dictate our lives. Mrs. Chen appeared with a tray of tea, her silent way of offering comfort in crisis. As she poured, her eyes met Ethan's with approval. The press will ask about Mom, Max said, accepting a cup. About why she kept us apart. Let them ask. Ethan retrieved Anna's letters from his desk. Your mother left us the words we need. She knew this day might come. He unfolded one of the later letters, the paper worn from repeated reading. My choices will seem strange to the world, perhaps even cruel. But love isn't always neat or simple. Sometimes it's messy and complicated and looks like mistakes to those who don't understand. I chose to separate our sons not because I loved one more than the other, but because I loved them both enough to want different paths for them. Different chances. Different ways to grow into themselves. When the truth comes out, and it will because truth has a way of surfacing, remember this. Every choice I made, every secret I kept, was born from love. Flawed love, human love, but love nonetheless. And now it's your turn, Ethan. Choose love over control, choose truth over appearance, choose our boys over everything else. As the words settled around them, Liam moved closer to Max, their shoulders touching. I used to imagine having a brother, he whispered. Someone who'd understand me, stand up for me. Max was quiet for a long moment. Then, I used to imagine having a mom. Someone who loved me enough to make hard choices. She loved you so much. Liam pulled something from his pocket, a worn photograph of baby Max that Anna had kept. She cried every year on your birthday. Max stared at the photo, his composure cracking. Yeah, well, looks like she gave you the better deal. A mom who was there. No, Liam said softly. She gave you Dad. And now maybe we both get everything? The brothers looked at each other, years of separation and secrets between them, but also something new. Something growing. Ethan's phone buzzed again. The board was threatening to convene without him. The Morrison family wanted answers. The press was gathering outside. But in his home office, watching his sons navigate their complicated inheritance of love and loss, Ethan Lancaster finally understood what real success looked like. It wasn't measured in stock prices or merger deals. It was measured in moments, like this, when two brothers chose to face the storm together, when truth rose above appearance, when love began to heal what fear had broken. Ready? He asked his sons. They nodded, standing shoulder to shoulder, mirror images of strength and vulnerability, of past and future reconciled. It was time to show the world what family really meant. Heartwarming family reunion, read one headline. Lancaster's lost son, a story of love and redemption, proclaimed another. The press conference had sparked a media frenzy, but not the kind anyone had expected. Something about Ethan Lancaster, the notoriously private CEO, standing with his sons and defending their mother's memory, had captured the public's imagination. The stock actually went up, Max announced, scrolling through financial news on his tablet. A week had passed since the press conference, and he'd taken to monitoring Lancaster Enterprises' market performance with fierce protectiveness. The Morrison family is back at the negotiating table. Liam looked up from his breakfast. Is that good? It's interesting, Max replied, his voice taking on the teaching tone he'd recently developed with his younger brother. Usually family drama makes investors nervous, but Dad's speech about Mom, about choosing family over appearance, people connected with that. Ethan watched the exchange from the kitchen doorway, remembering how the press conference had unfolded. He hadn't planned for his sons to speak, but when a reporter had questioned Anna's character, both boys had stepped forward. Our mother, Max had said, his voice clear and strong, made difficult choices out of love. She protected us both, Liam had added, reaching for his brother's hand. Just in different ways. Now, watching them share breakfast and casual conversation, Ethan saw how that moment of public solidarity had transformed their private relationship. Master Liam, Mrs. Chen interrupted his thoughts. Your new school uniform has arrived. Would you like to try it on? The mention of school made both boys tense. Tomorrow would be Liam's first day at Brighton Academy, Max's prestigious private school that had expedited Liam's admission after learning of his connection to the Lancaster family. Do I really have to go there? Liam asked quietly. I liked my old school. You'll love Brighton, Max said quickly, then hesitated. I mean, I could show you around, help you avoid the wrong crowds. Are there wrong crowds at a fancy private school? You'd be surprised. Max's lips twitched, especially now that we're famous. The word hung in the air, reminding them of the paparazzi that still lingered outside their building, of the social media frenzy that had followed the press conference, of the way their private family story had become public property. Ethan's phone buzzed. Another interview request, this time from a major magazine wanting to do a feature on America's most intriguing family. He declined it, as he had all the others. They'd told the world what it needed to know. The rest was theirs to keep. Dad? Liam's voice was hesitant. I found another letter from Mom, one she wrote for all of us to read together. Ethan and Max both stilled. The letters had become a kind of sacred text in their household, each one revealing new layers of Anna's thoughts, fears, and hopes. Should we? Max gestured to the living room where they'd taken to reading the letters together in the evenings. Liam retrieved the envelope from his room while Ethan and Max settled into their usual spots. The afternoon sun painted the room in warm light as Liam began to read. My dearest family, if you're reading this together, then the truth has finally come out. I imagine it wasn't easy. Truth rarely is. But I hope that by now you've begun to understand that love can take many forms, even forms that look like mistakes to the outside world. Max, my brilliant firstborn, I know you inherited your father's mind for strategy and detail, but I hope you're learning that there's strength in vulnerability too. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is let someone new into our carefully ordered world. Liam, my sweet boy, you carry my heart for adventure and discovery. But remember that roots are as important as wings. The family you've found may seem different from what you're used to, but different doesn't mean wrong. And Ethan, my first love, my hardest lesson. I see now that we were both right and both wrong. You wanted to build a legacy of success. I wanted to preserve the chance for joy. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, in teaching our sons that they can be both successful and happy, both strong and gentle, both ambitious and kind. The world will have opinions about our story. Let them. They don't know about the nights I spent writing these letters, trying to build a bridge across years of separation. They don't know about the tears and prayers and hopes that went into every decision. They don't know that sometimes love looks like letting go, and sometimes it looks like holding on. But you know because you're living it now, this complicated, beautiful journey of becoming a family. It won't be easy. There will be hard days, angry days, days when the past feels too heavy to carry. But there will also be moments of pure joy, of connection, of discovering pieces of yourselves in each other. That's my real legacy to you. Not the separation, but the reunion. Not the secrets, but the truth. Not the fear that drove my choices, but the love that survived them. Forever. Yours? Anna. The room was quiet when Liam finished reading. Outside, a helicopter buzzed past. Probably another news crew trying to get photos of the Lancaster family in their natural habitat. She would have liked this, Max said suddenly. Not the publicity, but this. Us. Together. Liam nodded, touching the letter gently. She always said everything happens in its own time. Even if that time takes 8 years? Max's voice held a trace of old hurt, but also something new. Acceptance, maybe even understanding. Especially then, Ethan said softly. Some lessons take longer to learn. Mrs. Chen appeared with a fresh pot of tea and something else. A cake decorated with both "Welcome to Brighton" and "Congratulations on the merger," written in her elegant hand. 2 celebrations in one, she explained. Just like 2 families, becoming one. The boys exchanged glances, then smiled. The same smile Ethan realized that Anna used to have when she found joy in unexpected places, to new beginnings. Max proposed, raising his teacup in a mock toast. To family, Liam added. To love in all its forms, Ethan finished, thinking of Anna's words about legacy and lessons. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. Inside, in their sanctuary high above Manhattan, 3 people who had been strangers just weeks ago shared cake and tea, and the quiet understanding that sometimes the most precious gifts come disguised as life's greatest challenges. Tomorrow would bring new tests, Liam's first day at Brighton, the finalization of the Morrison merger, the ongoing adjustments to their public visibility. But for now, they had this moment, this peace, this growing certainty that they were exactly where they needed to be. Brighton Academy loomed before them, its Gothic architecture a stark contrast to the modern glass towers surrounding it. Liam tugged at his tie, perfectly knotted by Mrs. Chen that morning, and tried not to feel like an imposter in his crisp new uniform. Remember, Max said quietly as they navigated through the crowd of students, all trying to sneak glances at the Lancaster twins. Just stick close to me between classes. I thought you said there'd be a student guide. There was supposed to be. Max's jaw tightened. But apparently everyone's too busy gossiping about us to actually help. They passed a group of students huddled around a phone, watching what looked like footage from the press conference. One girl pointed and whispered, "That's them, the secret twins." Liam shrunk closer to his brother, remembering Anna's words about school bullies. They're just scared of what they don't understand, honey. Your job isn't to fight them, but to show them there's nothing to fear. Ignore them, Max muttered, steering Liam toward the administrative office. They'll find something new to talk about eventually. Inside the office, Principal Blackwood waited with a tight smile. Ah, the Lancaster boys. I trust you'll help your brother maintain Brighton's high standards, Maxwell. Actually, Max's voice took on an edge Liam hadn't heard before. Liam's test scores are higher than mine were at his age. He'll probably be raising our standards. Pride and gratitude swelled in Liam's chest. It was the first time Max had openly bragged about him. The morning passed in a blur of new faces and whispered conversations. Liam's advanced placement classes kept him busy, but lunch proved to be the real challenge. The cafeteria fell into a hush when he entered, hundreds of eyes tracking his movement. Over here, Max called from a corner table, where he sat with a few other students. Guys, this is Liam. Liam, meet the science club. A girl with wildly curly hair grinned. I'm Rachel. Is it true you built a working model of Jupiter's magnetic field for your old school's science fair? Liam blinked in surprise. How did you... Oh, we Googled you, another boy admitted shamelessly. The whole school did, but that project actually sounded cool. It was Mom's idea, Liam said softly. She loved space science. The table grew quiet. Everyone knew about Anna now, her death, her choices, her letters. But before the silence could become awkward, Max jumped in. Tell them about the quantum dots theory you were explaining to me. Rachel's been working on something similar for the spring competition. Just like that, the tension broke. Soon Liam was deep in conversation about semiconductor physics, barely noticing when other students drifted closer to listen. Your brother's different from you. Rachel told Max during a lull in the discussion. In a good way. You're all structure and precision, but he's got this enthusiasm. Yeah, Max agreed, watching Liam gesture animatedly about electron behavior. Mom knew what she was. During physics class, a teacher called on Liam repeatedly, clearly trying to test if his placement was justified. But each correct answer seemed to fuel the whispers. Of course he's smart. He's Max Lancaster's twin. By the end of the day, Liam was exhausted. He found Max waiting by the front gates, phone in hand. Dad's sending the car around back, Max explained. There are photographers out front. Does it ever get easier? Liam asked as they took a circuitous route to avoid the press. Being a Lancaster? Max was quiet for a moment. I used to think it was about living up to the name, getting perfect grades, winning competitions, being exactly what everyone expected. He glanced at his brother. But maybe it's about being ourselves and letting the name catch up to us instead. In the car, Liam pulled out one of Anna's letters, his comfort reading for difficult days. My darling Liam. Someday, you'll enter your brother's world. It will feel strange and perhaps a little cold at first. But remember, you carry warmth within you. Your curiosity, your openness, your ability to find wonder in small things. These aren't weaknesses to hide, but gifts to share. Max needs these gifts, even if he doesn't know it yet. And you need his gifts too. His strength, his focus, his unwavering loyalty once earned. Together you'll balance each other in ways I always hoped you would. Don't try to be him, and don't let him try to be you. You're both exactly who you're meant to be. I got an interesting email today, Max said as they neared home. The science club wants to combine our projects for the spring competition. Your practical experience with sustainable energy and my theoretical work on efficient materials. Really? Liam brightened. They'd let us work together? They're practically begging us to. Apparently the Lancaster twins are good publicity. Max rolled his eyes but smiled. What do you think? Want to show them what we can do together? Before Liam could answer, his phone chimed with a message from Ethan. How was your first day? Different, Liam typed back. But good. Max helped a lot. He takes after his mother that way, Ethan replied. She always knew how to make people feel at home in new places. That evening, during their now traditional family dinner, Liam noticed something had shifted. The careful distance Max usually maintained had softened. When Liam mentioned a particularly challenging moment from the day, Max didn't just listen. He shared his own similar experience from years ago. The thing about Brighton, Max explained, passing the salad, is that everyone's trying so hard to be exceptional that they forget how to be real. But you just are who you are. It's refreshing. Your brother's right, Ethan added. I received calls from 3 different teachers, today all commenting on how Liam's enthusiasm was invigorating their classes. Mom would have loved that, Liam said without thinking, then tensed, waiting for the usual awkward silence that followed mentions of Anna. Instead, Max smiled. Yeah, she would have. She always said education should be about joy, not just achievement. He caught himself surprised. At least that's what her letters say. She was right, Ethan said softly. About so many things. Later, as the boys worked on homework in Max's room, their new normal, Liam noticed his solar system model had been joined by something new. Max had hung one of Anna's letters in a frame beside it, her words about balance and growth catching the evening light. Hey, Max? Liam asked, looking up from his physics textbook. Thanks. For today. For everything. Max was quiet for a long moment, then said, You know what's weird? I always thought having a brother would mean having to share everything. Attention, space, achievements. But instead it feels like everything's multiplied. Like I'm not losing anything. I'm gaining a whole new way of seeing things. Outside their window, the city lights began to twinkle like distant stars. Inside, 2 brothers who had once been strangers continued the delicate work of becoming family. Their differences not dividing them, but making them stronger. just as their mother had always hoped they would be. The Lancaster penthouse's living room had transformed into a makeshift laboratory. Complex diagrams covered the coffee table, a prototype solar panel array occupied the window seat, and laptop screens displayed competing simulations of energy efficiency models. In the midst of it all, Max and Liam sat cross-legged on the floor, deep in debate. But if we adjust the quantum dot layer here, Liam pointed to their shared notebook, we could increase absorption without compromising stability. The math doesn't support it, Max argued, though his tone held more excitement than frustration. Unless... He grabbed his tablet, fingers flying over the surface. Unless we modify the substrate composition. Exactly. Liam's eyes lit up, like Mom's garden experiments with layered soil composition. Instead of the usual tension that followed, mentions of Anna, Max leaned forward, intrigued. Mom did garden experiments? All the time. She said understanding how different layers work together was the key to helping things grow. Liam hesitated, then pulled out his phone. I have pictures, if you want to see. Max nodded, moving closer as Liam scrolled through photos of Anna in a small community garden, her hands dirty and her smile bright as she explained soil chemistry to a younger Liam. She looks happy, Max said softly. In all of them, she looks so happy. She was, mostly, except on your birthday or when she saw news about Dad's company. Liam paused on a photo where Anna stood before a makeshift classroom of community kids. That's where she taught science after everything. Did she? Max swallowed hard. Did she talk about me? All the time. She kept a journal of things she wanted to tell you someday. Scientific discoveries she thought you'd find interesting, jokes she wished she could share. Liam met his brother's eyes. It's in my backpack if you want to read it. Before Max could respond, Ethan appeared in the doorway, his expression troubled. Boys, we need to talk. They turned to find their father holding a tablet displaying a business magazine's website. The headline read, Lancaster Twins 2, Revolutionize Sustainable Energy. Inside the science project that could change everything. Someone at school must have leaked details about our project, Max said, shoulders tensing. The Morrison merger? Liam started, worry creasing his forehead. Is fine, Ethan assured them. Actually, they're interested in, potentially, developing whatever you boys create. But that's what we need to discuss. He sat down amidst their project chaos, careful not to disturb their carefully arranged components. The company's PR team wants to document your collaboration. They think it's a powerful story. The separated twins reuniting to create something revolutionary. No, Max said immediately, surprising everyone, including himself. This is ours. Not the company's, not the media's, ours. Liam touched his brother's arm gently. But think about it, Max. If it works, our design could help a lot of people. Isn't that what science is supposed to do? That sounds like Mom, Max said, his voice rough with emotion. It does, doesn't it? Ethan smiled sadly. She always saw the bigger picture, while I focused on the bottom line. He gestured to their project materials. What you boys are doing here, combining Max's precision with Liam's intuition, theoretical knowledge with practical application, it's exactly what she hoped for when she wrote those letters. The brothers exchanged glances, years of separation dissolving in their shared understanding. Max reached for his backpack and pulled out one of Anna's letters they'd been saving for inspiration. My brilliant boys. Science was always my way of making sense of the world. In the lab, everything has a reason, a purpose, a place. But life isn't like that. Life is messy and unpredictable, and sometimes the most beautiful discoveries come from chaos. Max, you have your father's gift for precision, for seeing patterns in complexity. Liam, you have my heart for exploration, for finding wonder in the unknown. Apart, you're both exceptional. Together, you could be revolutionary. Remember, the greatest scientific breakthroughs often come from combining seemingly opposing forces. like matter and antimatter, like particle and wave, like logic and intuition. Sometimes contradiction creates perfection. She knew, Liam whispered. Somehow she knew we'd end up working together like this. She hoped, Ethan corrected gently, and she laid the groundwork in the only way she could, by making sure you each developed your strengths independently, so you'd have something unique to offer when you finally found each other. Max stood abruptly and walked to the window, where their prototype caught the afternoon sun. I used to think she abandoned me for Liam, he said quietly. But she didn't, did she? She was building bridges all along, even when we couldn't see them. Liam joined his brother at the window. The quantum dots in our design, and they're like bridges too, connecting different energy states, making something new possible. Energy states that couldn't reach each other before, Max added, understanding, dawning in his eyes. Like us. Ethan watched his sons, marveling at how they'd grown together despite, or perhaps because of, their years apart. So, what do you want to do about the media interest? The brothers looked at each other, one of those silent conversations they'd recently developed passing between them. We'll do it, Max decided. But on our terms. No staged photos, no scripted interviews. Just the truth, Liam added. About the science and about us. Mom's journal too, Max said suddenly. If that's okay, Liam, I think people should know who she really was. Not just the choices she made, but why she made them. Liam's eyes filled with tears. She'd like that. She always said science was about sharing knowledge, not hoarding it. That evening, long after Ethan had left them to their work, the brothers sat surrounded by their project components, Anna's journal open between them. Look at this, Liam pointed to an entry. She wrote about a solar energy breakthrough the same day you won your first science fair. She said she could imagine you getting excited about the quantum implications. I did, Max said softly. I remember reading about it and wanting to tell someone who'd understand. I just didn't know she was out there wanting to hear it. We can't change that, Liam replied, echoing their mother's words from another letter. But we can build something new, something that bridges past and future. Something revolutionary, Max agreed, turning back to their designs with renewed purpose. Outside, the city hummed with its endless energy. Inside, two brothers continued their work, their differences becoming their strength, their shared legacy taking shape in equations and innovations, and the quiet understanding that sometimes the most important scientific discovery is the power of connection. Brighton Academy's annual Science and Innovation Fair had never seen such a crowd. The auditorium buzzed with energy as journalists, business leaders, and students packed the space. At the center of it all stood the Lancaster Twins Project, quantum bridge technology, a revolutionary approach to sustainable energy. Max adjusted their display screen for the 10th time, his usual confidence wavering. Maybe we should run the efficiency simulation one more time. It's perfect, Liam assured him, recognizing his brother's nervous tell, the same way he used to fidget with his own solar system model. Mom would love it. The mention of Anna didn't bring tension anymore. Instead, Max smiled, touching the framed photo they'd included in their presentation, Anna in her community garden, teaching kids about photosynthesis. Beside it lay her open journal, displaying her notes about quantum physics and sustainable energy, her dreams for both, her sons written in the margins. Ethan approached looking somewhat overwhelmed by the turnout. The Morrison family is here, and about 20 other potential investors. Dad, Max said suddenly, did you know about Mom's research? Before, Ethan's expression softened. I knew she was brilliant, but I was too focused on quarterly reports and market shares to really understand what she was trying to build. He gestured to their project, not just in science, but in life. She saw connections I was too blind to see. The crowd hushed as Principal Blackwood approached the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce our keynote presenters. Over the past 2 months, they have not only revolutionized our understanding of quantum dot, solar technology, but have also shown us the extraordinary power of family bonds. Please welcome Maxwell and Liam Lancaster. The brothers took their places at the podium, their matching gray eyes scanning the crowd. Max began their rehearsed introduction, but then paused, going off script. "Before we explain our technology," he said, his voice strong and clear, "we need to tell you about our mother, Anna Bennett. She was more than just a headline in our family's story. She was a scientist, a teacher, and a visionary who understood that the greatest breakthroughs come from combining unexpected elements." Liam stepped forward, seamlessly taking over. "Our quantum bridge technology works by creating connections between different energy states that normally couldn't interact. Like our family, it proves that separation doesn't have to mean disconnection, that different paths can lead to the same destination." As they launched into their technical presentation, the audience leaned forward, captivated not just by the science but by the obvious synergy between the brothers. Max handled the theoretical frameworks with precision, while Liam brought the practical applications to life with passionate demonstrations. "The quantum dots act as bridges," Max explained, pointing to their simulation. "Just like Mom built bridges between our separate lives through her letters and journals. And like traditional bridges," Liam added, "they don't just connect 2 points, they create entirely new possibilities for movement and growth." From the front row, Rachel wiped tears from her eyes as she filmed the presentation for the Science Club's archive. Behind her, the Morrison family whispered excitedly among themselves. But the brothers remained focused on each other, their timing perfect, their understanding complete. When they unveiled their working prototype, a quantum dot solar panel array that achieved unprecedented efficiency rates, the audience erupted in applause. But it was their next announcement that brought the room to stunned silence. "We're releasing our research open source," Max declared. "No patents, no proprietary restrictions. Because Mom believed that knowledge, like love, grows stronger when it's shared," Liam explained, his voice thick with emotion. In the back of the auditorium, Ethan stood straighter, pride and understanding washing over his face. His sons weren't just presenting a science project. They were declaring their values, choosing a different path from his culture of corporate secrecy and control. The Q&A session that followed was intense. Journalists pressed for details. About their collaboration process, investors argued for exclusive rights, and fellow students asked about the technical challenges. But it was a question from a small girl in Anna's old community garden program that stopped everyone short. "Doctor, Bennett always said science was about making the world better," she said, her voice carrying in the sudden quiet. "Is that what you're trying to do?" The brothers exchanged glances, then Liam knelt to her level. "That's exactly what we're trying to do. And you know what? She left us a letter about today." Max pulled out the final letter they'd been saving for this moment. "My dearest boys, if you're reading this together, sharing your gifts with the world, then my greatest experiment has succeeded. Not the science, though I never doubted your brilliant minds would find each other's wavelength, but the proof that love can bridge any gap, heal any separation, create something more beautiful than we could achieve alone. Max, my analytical soul, I see you learning that precision without passion is just mechanics. Liam, my curious heart, I see you discovering that wonder without structure is just dreams. Together, you're the perfect formula I always hoped you'd become. Remember, the most powerful energy in the universe isn't found in quantum dots or solar arrays. It's found in the space between 2 hearts beating in sync, in the moment when understanding bridges difference, in the quiet miracle of separate paths converging into one. Share your light with the world, my brilliant boys. It's brighter. Together. All my love. Mom." The silence that followed was profound. Then, starting with the little girl and spreading through the crowd, applause filled the auditorium. Not the polite applause of academic appreciation, but the deep emotional recognition of witnessing something extraordinary. Later, as they packed up their project amid a swarm of reporters and investors, Max caught Liam studying their mother's photo. She would have loved being here, Liam said softly. She is here, Max replied, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. In the math, in the science, in the way we work together. Everything we built is because of her. Ethan joined them, holding a stack of business cards from interested investors. The Morrison family wants to fund a research institute in your mother's name. Focus on sustainable energy and science education. The Anna Bennett Institute for Collaborative Innovation, Liam mused. Teaching kids that different doesn't mean separate. Teaching them that the most important discoveries happen when we bridge divides, Max added. As they carried their project out of the auditorium, the setting sun painted Brighton's Gothic architecture in gold. Photographers called for one more photo, but the family barely noticed. They were too absorbed in their own quiet revolution. 3 people who had started as strangers transformed by love, truth, and the legacy of a woman who had seen bridges where others saw only walls. Ready to go home? Ethan asked his sons. The brothers nodded, their matching gray eyes reflecting the same light. In their hands they carried the future, not just the quantum technology they'd created, but the deeper understanding that sometimes the greatest scientific breakthrough is learning to see the world through someone else's eyes. 6 months. After the science fair, the Anna Bennett Institute for Collaborative Innovation opened its doors in a renovated brownstone near her old community garden. The building seamlessly blended modern technology with warm, welcoming spaces, just as Anna had always balanced science with humanity. Ethan stood in the main laboratory. The Lancaster twins had become minor celebrities in the scientific community, but they wore their fame differently than he had worn his. Where he had built walls, they built bridges. And the really cool thing about quantum entanglement, Liam was explaining to a wide-eyed girl, is that particles can stay connected even when they're separated by huge distances. Like you and Max? She asked innocently. Max, who had once flinched at such personal questions, smiled. Exactly like that. Sometimes the universe has ways of keeping things connected, even when we can't see how. The Institute had become their second home. 3 afternoons a week, the brothers taught classes to students from Anna's old community, sharing not just scientific knowledge but the deeper lessons they'd learned about collaboration and understanding. Mr. Lancaster? Mrs. Chen appeared, at Ethan's elbow. The final items from storage have arrived. He followed her to a small room they designated as the Anna Bennett Memorial Library. Boxes of her research notes, journals, and teaching materials filled the space, waiting to be archived and shared. But it was a smaller box that caught his attention, one marked "For my family," in Anna's handwriting. "Boys," he called softly, "I think you should see this." The twins joined him as he opened the box, revealing a collection of items they'd never seen before. Max's first baby photo, which Anna had secretly kept, a dried flower from the day Liam was born, newspaper clippings of Max's early science fair victories, Liam's first attempt at writing a research hypothesis. "She saved everything," Liam whispered, touching a small handmade Mother's Day card he'd given her years ago. "Everything from both of us," Max added, finding a program from a school concert he barely remembered performing in. At the bottom of the box lay a USB drive labeled "The Future." With trembling hands, Ethan connected it to the library's computer system. Anna's face filled the screen, a video she'd recorded in her final days. "My dearest family," she began, her face thin but her eyes bright. "If you're watching this, then everything I hoped for has come to pass. My boys have found each other, and Ethan has finally understood what I tried to tell him all those years ago, that love is the greatest force for change in the universe." The brothers moved closer together, unconsciously seeking comfort in their connection as their mother continued. "Max, my beautiful firstborn, I see so much of your father's strength in you, but also a depth of feeling you try to hide. Don't hide it anymore. Your ability to care deeply is not a weakness, it's what makes your brilliant mind truly exceptional." Max wiped tears from his eyes, feeling Liam's supportive hand on his shoulder. "Liam, my sweet explorer, you carry my love for discovery in your heart. I've watched you grow, wondering if I made the right choice in keeping you with me. But seeing you now, Bringing light and warmth to your brother's world, I know that everything happened as it needed to. Liam leaned into his brother's strength, their differences forgotten in their shared grief and love. And Ethan, Anna's voice softened. My first love, my hardest lesson. I see now that we were both right and both wrong. You wanted to build something lasting, and I wanted to protect something precious. In the end, our boys have shown us how to do both. She paused, gathering strength. The institute you've built in my name, yes, I knew you would, because I knew love would eventually win over pride. It's not just about science. It's about the principle that has guided my whole life. That the greatest discoveries come from bringing different elements together. Different perspectives, different approaches, different hearts. The video showed Anna reaching for something off-screen, a familiar blue notebook. I've left you my final research notes, not just about quantum physics or sustainable energy, but about life, love, and the invisible bonds that connect us all. Share them, build on them. Let them be the foundation for something greater than I could achieve alone. Her final words came in a whisper. Remember, my loves, in science as in family, we are stronger together than we could ever be apart. The screen went dark, but her presence lingered in the quiet room. Outside, the sounds of students, exploring their new laboratory, drifted in, the future she had envisioned already taking shape. She knew, Max said finally. She knew we'd end up here, doing this. She hoped. Ethan corrected gently, echoing his words from months ago. And she laid the groundwork in the only way she could. Liam opened the blue notebook, finding pages of scientific formulas interwoven with personal observations about her sons, her hopes for their future, her vision. Look at this, he said, pointing to a passage. She was working on quantum bridge theory even back then. She wrote, like quantum particles, love doesn't follow ordinary rules of space and time. It persists, it entangles, it transforms everyone. It touches. The ultimate scientific principle, Max added with a smile. Tested and proven by her greatest experiment, us. The brothers turned to the library windows, where their quantum bridge prototype cast rainbow patterns across the floor. Below, in Anna's restored community garden, new generations of young scientists were planting seeds, both literal and metaphorical. I think it's time, Ethan said softly, pulling out a key, to open her private research room. The small room at the heart of the institute had remained sealed, waiting for this moment. Inside, they found Anna's final gift, walls covered with photos, notes, and drawings chronicling both her scientific work and her son's parallel journeys. A timeline of separation and convergence, hypothesis and proof, love and legacy. At the center of the room stood a simple display case containing two items: the brothers' quantum bridge prototype and Anna's last family photograph, taken just before the twins were born. Below them, her final hypothesis was written in her distinctive hand. Love, like energy, cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed, transmitted, and multiplied when shared. Test subjects, my family. Results, pending but promising. Conclusion. The greatest scientific achievement is learning to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, the connection in the separation, the light in each other. Max and Liam stood before the display, their reflections overlapping in the glass. Different yet similar, separated yet connected, carrying forward their mother's legacy in ways she had both planned and never imagined. Ready? Max asked, his brother holding up Anna's research notebook. Liam nodded, understanding perfectly. It was time to begin their next project, digitizing and sharing their mother's work with the world, proving her final hypothesis true with every bridge they built, every student they taught, every moment they chose connection over separation. Together, they said in unison, as somewhere between heaven and earth, between past and future, between hypothesis and proof, Anna's greatest experiment continued to unfold. In the quantum entanglement of family, in the perpetual motion of love, in the endless possibilities of hearts and minds working in perfect synchronicity, If you had to choose between protecting someone you love or telling the whole truth, which path would you choose? Anna chose protection. Would you do the same? Leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.